Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Injury Law Pod. I am your host, Eric Bartlett, 28-year personal injury lawyer. And this is the podcast where we talk about all things personal injury law related. And up on today's episode, we are talking about a tragic situation that occurred here within the last couple weeks in Kansas City, where the Family Dollar store in Midtown Kansas City had a roof collapse situation, and it ended up killing one person and injuring several others. And unfortunately, these things do happen sometimes. And we're going to explore a little more about that, and also just what the injury law looks like around a situation like that, who all is responsible. And there's already been a lawsuit filed. We're going to see who's being sued. I'm going to give my thoughts on who else might be involved eventually, and just examine this to see how in the future something like this could be avoided. It seems like a really bad situation where this should have never happened based on everything that I've seen. And unfortunately, someone lost their life and some other people were seriously injured because, again, allegedly, the property owners and others did not fix a problem that had been there for a long time and apparently was known about and could have been repaired. And again, this never would have happened. So, if you follow local news, you probably have seen that on July 27th, the Family Dollar store, again, down in the Midtown area, it part of the roof collapsed during regular business hours. This happened on a Sunday, and essentially a 58-year-old man was killed. And then the person that's bringing a lawsuit was severely injured by falling debris. Her name is Tammy Martin. And I'm sure the family of the man that was killed will also bring a lawsuit as well, and then potentially the others that were hurt. But we're going to look at exactly this, basically what we call a premises liability claim, meaning something dangerous with the property, and corporate negligence in all of this. And uh, according to the lawsuit that's been filed, debris essentially crushed this lady, Tammy Martin, which caused her permanent injury to multiple parts of her body. Now, as I am doing this podcast, there's an ongoing investigation by both city officials and structural engineers to determine exactly what happened. The lawsuit was filed August 1st. So again, I'm doing this podcast on August 7th. So this is all very fresh, new. I'm sure more evidence will come out. But right now, the essential allegations are that Family Dollar was negligent in maintaining a safe property for their shoppers. And again, we have to remember this is a business. They're inviting people to come in, spend money there. And so obviously there's a duty upon them to maintain a safe property for the people they're wanting to come spend money at their store. The allegations are that this collapse was foreseeable and preventable. And there's going to be, as with most personal injury claims, medical expenses, both past and future, pain and suffering, permanent disability, and in this situation, and also in this lawsuit, punitive damages may be at issue if essentially the person making the claim can show that Family Dollar acted in a reckless, willful type of manner in failing to keep its premises safe for its shoppers. So in Missouri, Businesses owe a duty to maintain reasonably safe premises or property for its customers. And this includes structural integrity, roofs, flooring, signage, etc. And in this claim, essentially what's being claimed is there was a dangerous condition that existed. The defendant knew or should have known about it, that being Family Dollar, that the defendant failed to remedy it, and the plaintiff was injured as a result. And in addition to Family Dollar, I believe the actual owner of the building is also in this lawsuit. So you have two potentially responsible parties. The other question that's out there that may come down the road is whether the city has any responsibility, because apparently this condition had existed since 2016. There was, or what led to the problem with the building in the first place was that in 2016, a car ran into the building and there was a structural beam that was removed as part of that, and it was never replaced. So for a period of 9 years, this building has been sitting there without, again, allegedly the appropriate structural capacity to maintain the safety of the roof. And then here we are in July of 2025, and the roof collapses. So, as far as what Family Dollar or the property owner should have known and what that standard looks like, again, it goes to whether there were prior roof issues, whether there were situations where, whether it was code violations, failure to repair, whatever that looked like. That's what strengthens this claim against Family Dollar and the property owner. And as I just talked about, it's in the news that there was a prior incident that had created this situation. And I don't think there's any question that Family Dollar or the property owner knew what the situation was, but that simply nobody took the appropriate steps to repair it. And in this lawsuit, there's going to be some critical evidence, which will be store inspection and maintenance records, and seeing like why the decision was made not to make the appropriate repairs. So it'll be very important for the person making the claim and their lawyers to get the information about what exactly the history looks like between the time that car ran into the building until this collapse occurred. Now, it's always out there in our personal injury world in Missouri, comparative fault being the ability for a jury to assess fault between the people being sued and the person doing the suing. And in this one, if for any reason, say there were warnings posted about the safety of the roof or anything to that regard, that could play into helping the defendants. But again, from what I've seen, this is a situation where there were no warnings or anything of that nature. And so comparative fault probably will not have a big factor in this lawsuit. It is interesting to note that, again, according to news reports, so this happened on a Sunday. On Friday, a call was made to Kansas City's helpline to report that the roof appeared to be tilting, I think was the way the caller described it. So on Friday, there's a report to the city. Sunday, the roof collapses. And so that's where a question comes in about the city's responsibility, because apparently the city does have a task force when a call comes in like that for engineers to go out and assess the situation and see whether there's a danger to the public. And it looks like between Friday and the Sunday collapse, nobody went out there to check it out. And again, according to what I've read, there is this task force is a 24-hour operation. So it'll be interesting to see what the line of communication was between the time they got that call and Sunday when this collapsed. Was there ever any attempt made on the part of the city to address the concerns that were called in? Now, again, we have someone that died in this. And so the family of that person, again, will most likely file a lawsuit, and that will be a wrongful death claim. And in the wrongful death claim, it's a different set of damages that are claimed. So obviously, there's a loss involved by the family, and that could include funeral expenses, the loss of companionship from losing their family member, the loss of income if that person supported their family, and essentially just that entire scope of the loss to the family. Now, what will also be interesting is whether Family Dollar has had any other structural safety issues with that particular location. Again, we already know what the history is at this point from news reports. And again, it'll be very interesting to see if they ever did anything in an effort to remedy this situation or if they just let it exist from 2016 to 2025. And again, OSHA or city building inspection history might show a broader problem with that property. Again, all of that will be discovered in the lawsuit. Similar type cases that have come out in Missouri, there was a claim against Walmart. Now, this was actually like a fall case due to a water leak at a Walmart store. And there, a jury awarded six figures after proving knowledge of the hazard. So, in other words, they showed that Walmart knew or should have known that there was this water leak. It created a dangerous condition. It was foreseeable that someone was going to get hurt, and somebody did get hurt. Another one, there was a roof collapse at a St. Louis church. And in that one, the church was found liable when it was shown that maintenance had not been done on that roof to make sure that it was kept in a safe condition when you have people coming in there, and therefore the church was responsible. And then finally, another one was a grocery store. It was against Schnucks, and they had shelves collapse due to poor installation. And there, the court upheld the duty of care on the store to provide a safe place for their shoppers, the people they've invited in to spend money there. They had a duty to ensure that their store was in a safe condition for those people. So if someone finds themselves in a situation like this, what are steps that should be taken? Again, something like this, obviously, you've got medical personnel on scene. You're going to have probably police involved. You're going to most likely pretty quickly have city inspectors involved, maybe OSHA, whatever that looks like. And hopefully, all those governmental agencies and others are going to be documenting the situation, getting any witness statements, things like that. And that's going to be really important to document everything, make sure evidence is preserved. And again, witness statements are always very helpful. So, as the person being hurt, these were serious injuries. Again, someone was killed. So, those people probably were not in a very good position to make sure that stuff was happening. But they obviously, at least this person that was hurt, reached out to lawyers very quickly. And again, those lawyers in coordination with these governmental agencies will hopefully work to preserve all of the evidence that will be very critical in proving the claim against Family Dollar, the property owner, and potentially the city. And again, preserving anything evidence wise. If there's any question about whether this person was actually at the store or anything like that, is there a receipt showing the time that they were there? Whatever it is, you never know what small pieces of evidence, how big they can become in a lawsuit. And so obviously, this person, in my opinion, did the right thing. They quickly connected with an injury lawyer to get things moving, to put everybody on notice, make sure things are being preserved, and getting the process moving forward to eventually get them compensated for a situation that was very dangerous and again led to very serious injury and even death. As always, you have to remember in Missouri, you have 5 years to make a claim for something like this. In Kansas, you have 2 years. So, Missouri, you have a longer amount of time, but you want to make sure quick action is always the best action. There's no question about that. And this tragedy is a stark reminder of the legal responsibility that businesses have to protect their customers. You cannot open a store, you cannot ask people to come in and give you money for the product that you're selling and not provide a safe atmosphere to do that. Now, listen, stores are not insurers of their customers' safety. In other words, other things can happen in a store and it's not necessarily the store's fault. For example, what if another customer spills something, doesn't report it to anybody, and 30 seconds goes by and another customer comes in contact with the spilled liquid on the floor, slips, falls, gets hurt. Store is going to argue we had no notice and there was no way for us to even potentially know about that because it just happened. But again, timeline, right? It's going to have to be proven one way or the other. The person making the claim has the burden to prove what they're making the claim on. So if you fall on a liquid in the store, you're going to be trying to put a timeline together of how long that liquid was on the floor. How do you do that? Does the store have any regular scheduled inspections of their premises during the time that they're open for business? What about cameras? These stores usually have lots of cameras recording video of what's going on in their stores. And that video could very well establish that a liquid had been on the floor for hours. And if the store had any kind of regular scheduled inspection, they would have discovered it. They could have cleaned it up and the person would have never encountered it and gotten hurt. And just like this situation here, it's going to be very important to figure out what decisions were made. Were decisions made? Did they have people? Did they have structural engineers come out and tell them everything's fine here as it is? And if that's the case, again, is there another potential responsible party if it's an engineering firm? Again, there's many layers to a situation like this, but you've got to create that timeline. You've got to look at the history. You've got to figure out what did this store, this property owner know, or what should they have known about this dangerous condition. But Missouri law and Kansas law, it gives victims powerful tools to seek justice in a situation like this. But acting quickly and strategically is essential to making the claim. And when you're seriously hurt or worse, everything matters because these are big losses. And if somebody else is responsible for it, they need to be held accountable for it. So remember, if you or someone you know has been hurt and you think somebody else is responsible for that, make sure we always encourage you to give us a call. It's always a free call. We're happy to examine the situation, see how we can help. And until the next episode, be safe and be well.